Dear Father in heaven, we're grateful that we could meet as a class today. We're so very grateful for the technology that allows us to be together over these many miles, and grateful for all the many blessings that that bestows upon us. We're grateful for this opportunity to have this discussion and to be edified and to learn and to grow and become better. And we ask that thou would bless us with thy spirit and bless us that we might open our hearts and minds and be able to learn. And we ask these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you. Brother Lampert, was there something you wanted to cover?
No, I'm just here to participate to whatever extent, and let you go ahead and start us up, and let's see where we go.
All right, sounds great. So before we get into the discussion about the case study tonight, I just wanted to go over the group leader sign up so that everybody has the opportunity to sign up to do this. I feel like we should probably leave some space for some of the members of our group that aren't here the opportunity to be the group leader, because there's not enough weeks for us to I'll go twice since there's 5 people in our group. But I'm going to go ahead and screen share. I've already signed up for this week, and then I picked a random week that I knew would work for me. If someone would rather take that week, I don't mind switching out. So we can screen share just to see this document, and then I can just go ahead and put your names in real quick, and we can just fill this document up really fast. Can you guys see this?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Do you guys know like what week that's for you?
Breaking up a little bit.
You guys there?
Yeah, we're here.
Okay.
Here's feedback. Good somewhere. Keep you on my screen. Did you pop off? There we go.
So does anybody know which week would be best for them?
I can take next week.
Okay. I'll put the rest of your information in after the class, after this is over.
Yeah, that's great.
Adrian, is there a week? Are you with us still? Is there a week that works best for you?
I could do 5.
Okay. All right. And then, would you guys be able to cover one more week towards the end of the class?
I can. You can put me wherever. Put me wherever you want.
If necessary, yeah.
Actually, you know what? I'd rather do. Now that I'm thinking about it, let me look here. These are 1 week apart, right? One.
Yeah, this is like required. You're gonna be running the show.
I started baseball season with my kids, and so some
I got a
Thursdays are really busy.
5 and 6, so I can't do it there.
I'm trying to look. Give me what is it? I'm gonna do math in my head here. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Is the lesson 7? Is that June? Oh, that's June. That's 7, 8, 9, 10. Are we skipping? Oh, that's 4th of July week, right?
Yeah, we're skipping
11.
Yeah.
Oh, darn it! That's when I'm off of baseball.
Well, if you can't, that's fine. We can work around it. I'm sure that again.
No, I was going to say I would have loved to do it then, because then I wouldn't have been at baseball I would have been around for lesson 11, but we're not doing a discussion for lesson 11.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's fine. Put me then at Give me a lesson 6.
Okay.
I'll do them real quick, back to back.
All right. And then Adrian, is there another week you can cover? You there?
Could I see the sheet again?
You not see it now?
No.
Adrian, if you click on Zach's name, it'll keep him up instead of switching between who's speaking, so you can see the.
Oh, okay, I see. Um, number 8.
Number 8. Okay, perfect. Okay. So, oops, save that. So what I'll do is I'll email that out, brother Lampier. Is it okay if I just email that out to our entire group, and then once I hear back from Heidi and Ryan, I'll just fill that in and then email it to you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, so now let's kind of dive into this case study. And if I'm doing something wrong or feel like you want to add something, please just let me know. I just want to cover just a quick synopsis of the case. I assume you guys both had the opportunity to read it and write up your case study reports?
Yep.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So, just a brief.
Yeah, hey, Zach,
Yeah.
I just want to mention, I'm not here to critique you or anything. I'm just here to participate in the discussion. So relax and don't worry about that part.
All right, sounds good.
Right.
Fantastic. Okay. Well, so the case study was following Derby Food, specifically a situation they were having in their upper management and leadership. Where'd he go? There it is.
You know, real quick, Zach.
Yeah?
While you're speaking, I don't know. Is there a way? Who's? Are you running the Google Hangout?
Yeah.
Just maybe while you're doing your synopsis, then I think there's a way where you can mute everybody else, and that way we're not popping in. Because sometimes I think it's popping to somebody else's mic, and we're losing you while you're talking. I don't know if there's a way you can just mute us temporarily, maybe.
Yeah. Not a problem. Yeah, I'll do it individually. So I'll mute, and then I'll take me a second just to unmute people.
Yeah, I think just while you're doing your summary would be great. And then when we discuss, you can unmute.
That's great. Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate the tip. Okay, so just the synopsis, just really quick, because we kind of lost a lot of time already, is that it's concerning Mary Griffin, and she is one of the VPs with Derby Foods, and she had an issue when one of I guess it was the director of production, I believe it was, his name was, I believe, John Shelbourne. He approached her with a complaint against one of the other managers, one of the brand managers who had given his production crew a hard time, came down yelling at him, and he was really upset by this. And Mary recognized that she had another incident where this manager, Simon York, doing a presentation during a brand meeting, had a poor or negative reaction when one of his team members had made a mistake and kind of chastised this team member, although it was kind of underhanded, but it was still in front of the entire group. So, which left like the teammate and the team feeling not very welcomed or part of the culture. So she was worried about his performance. He's a young guy that just got promoted, and he's done some great work for the company, but it appears that his leadership and management style has been causing some problems with this, in his new capacity as as one of the main leaders of this company. And so she's decided to set up a meeting with him where she can give him some feedback. Lastly, this manager who she's meeting with, Simon York, once he found out that he was going to meet with her, he was, excited with or interested at the opportunity to sit down and talk about his newest marketing project, which involved their food company, being one of the sponsors and this official snack providers of the Winter X Games. Was there anything else that I missed? Anybody would like to add to that synopsis? Good? All right. Okay, so excuse me while I switch screens. All right. I'm just gonna. There we go. That's better. All right. So, what do you guys believe is like the main issue in this case study?
I think it's, here's a new manager who's really struggling. Well, I think he's just really, what's the word I'm looking for here, oblivious of his actions. I think he thinks that the way he's acting is helpful when it's obviously not being helpful. I kind of, as I read this case study, it really made me think about, I'm a big baseball guy. I love baseball, playing it, watching it, whatever. And there's kind of a culture in baseball for a long time that, and it still is the case, where a vast majority of managers are ex-baseball players. And there's this thought that to be a good coach or a good manager, you had to play baseball. And there are some breaking into it now saying that's absurd. And you've seen it with certain managers that they were great ball players and terrible managers, right? And so I kind of thought of that with the Simon York guy, just because he was a fantastic, up and comer in business doesn't necessarily mean he knows how to manage a team. So that's kind of what that was just going in my head about that, is about, when she has that discussion, she's going to need to talk to him about, hey, you're good at this aspect, but there's other aspects of management that you need to brush up on.
Yeah. No, I kind of got that same vibe. Adrian, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I think, we have a talented employee, very talented employee in Simon, the brand manager, who recently was promoted to the head of his department. And he's now, exemplifying poor leadership by belittling and yelling at his employees over small things in front of everybody. And the real problems are Simon's attitude, and that his, pace-setting style of management is not having a positive impact on the employees in his department. His employees appear to be displeased with him, based on Mary's observation of how they looked at the internal meeting, which that was kind of like a separate issue, but it's related to.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? I want to come back to Brad's comment, is your analogy with the baseball team, baseball manager. So are you saying that Simon is in a position that he shouldn't be in because he doesn't have the skills to do what needs to be done?
Not necessarily. I think it just, the idea that just because somebody's good, like say, if you're the top salesman in your company, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to excel as the sales manager, right? And that's what I just see there is just, I think it's too early to tell. He might be a fantastic manager that just needs a little redirection. But that was just my thought, is just the whole idea of just because he was fantastic at this one role Doesn't necessarily mean he'll be fantastic at this new role. It doesn't mean he won't be either. In the baseball analogy, there are a lot of ex-players who are fantastic managers who did end up doing really well. So it's just, I guess I'm just saying it's not a given in this situation.
Yeah, I mean, and I agree with that. I've been in a situation in my past work experience where an employee that was like a superstar had gotten promoted, and he didn't necessarily have the qualities. He got promoted into management, and his qualities were a little lacking in management. And like I was kind of in the same boat where I had worked for this company, doing one thing. I got promoted into management, and I was underqualified in all honesty, at least at first. And so, like, having experienced that myself and seen someone else go through that, to me, it's, I think it's partially not being. I mean, like, I feel for Simon York, like he wants to do a good job. He's he's passionate about performing well, especially for the company and his superiors, and as well as to this with this marketing efforts that he's created with the Winter X Games is a huge event. So I feel like he must be under I assume, and I can empathize with the pressure he's going through. And so to me, not only is it part of his not having the skill set, but there's a lack of training that he didn't get that he needs in management that should have occurred during his promotional process. At least that's my thought.
Well, and as we learn about this, as we read towards the end and his reaction to the meeting, like I said, he's obviously oblivious to his actions. Like, it's not like he doesn't even know he's done something that's offensive. I've been in situations myself where somebody's been offended and I had no clue that I had offended someone, right? And so I guess without knowing his reaction to the meeting, it's hard to know what kind of person he is. He might be the person who, when she says, hey, you did this and this was, frustrating these people, he might say, well, they need to suck it up and they need to, do it right the first time, and he might double down, or he might be mortified and say, wow, I didn't even realize I was doing that. You're right, that's not how I should work, and try to make an effort to change. But obviously something has to give, right? Yeah.
So what do we think that as a group, what is so we know we've defined and talked a little bit about, his behaviors that we have found alarming, or that Mary and the company has found alarming. But what is, I guess, the main issue here? What is the most, if we had to whittle this down into one thing, like one problem, what do you guys think that would be? Or can we whittle it down to one problem?
I personally think it's the team, right? At the end of the day, somebody's feelings getting hurt is not a huge thing, but if it destroys the team, that's a huge problem, right? So if he's over 20 people and all 20 of them leave, that's a problem. So to me, it's about and I don't it says in the thing about culture, but I do think that's the big issue, is that one superstar can't run the whole company. If he alienates his team, that's bad for business. It's bad for the business.
Adrian, what are your thoughts?
I guess the main issue, I think, is Simon, his attitude and his leadership style.
Yeah, I like the word you used, Brad. Alienate. Like, it's hard. It's hard working for someone when you feel alienated from them, or that you struggle having to face a boss. It's hard. Like, again, from my own personal work experience, it was hard for me when I had an employer that was just like a roller coaster. Like, some days he was really great, and some days he was just a ball of fury. And it was just beware of whoever he set his eyes on. It can be hard to be motivated to produce effectively, and and to do your job when you have that kind of like, okay, what are we going to get into today? So I think that, yeah.
Well, I was going to ask a question of you guys. We've been kind of focused on his behavior, and then I think Adrian just mentioned also his attitude, and Brad kind of touched on the fact he was oblivious to, the impact of what he's doing. So the question I have is this: what if we? This is a connect the dot question, okay? So what if we just recently, in the last week or two, what things have we read about, we've been exposed to, that kind of is the foundation to way somebody behaves, or the foundation to their attitude, or what have we? It's not a trick question. I'm just, there's some things we've had in the readings over the last couple of weeks that kind of relate to what's going on here. So see if you can connect the dots, if that's not too cryptic.
Well, I'll go first. So several things. The first thing that came to mind was the last case study we did with Ricardo Semler.
Similar, yeah.
Yeah, and I just think we can draw a pretty easy parallel to his leadership style at the beginning of his of his leadership at Semco, and just how aggressive he was being, and how much demand and pressure that he put on not only himself, which I feel like York is doing, but also his employees, and that we can see the effects of that. So one, that we know that this type of behavior is going to mess with, like Brad said, the culture. It's going to alienate people. We're going to have some residual problems just trickle down throughout. Well, it'll spread throughout the entire company. And the second thing is the readings that we have from 7 Habits. I think that there's a lot of things that we can apply to from the first several chapters that we've read and covered that Simon York could greatly that apply greatly to Simon York, primarily the idea of being proactive, the paradigm that he's working under, as well as what his values are, like what is his center. I think I'm forgetting the way he phrased it, but is he self-centered or work-centered? Where is he centered? And all those things are contributing to how he's reacting. And I don't want to take up what Adrian or Brad would say, but so what are your guys' thoughts?
Adrian, you want to go ahead? I seem to be talking a lot, so I'll let you start.
Could the question be repeated briefly?
Yeah, I just asked, given what we've read about over the last couple of weeks, 7 Habits, the other case study, what can we take from that has relevance to this situation? And because we're talking about what impacts his behavior, what impacts how he sees things. What have we learned? And then Zach just touched on several of them. Maybe you want to add to that or expand on it.
I know we've learned about a variety of leadership styles through, I think, one of the HRM documents. We learned about the pace-setting style of management, where there's an excellent leader and employee, and a leader and he expects everybody to be just as good as him and work just as hard, which that works when you have like all-star employees, but for other employees who aren't, as good, then they kind of get left behind. They don't feel good about work anymore, and they sort of resent his style. So it works for the really good employees. They got it together, but not for the average employee. Um,
Okay. One thing I just wanted to add was tying into the 7 habits, just something that Zach had mentioned earlier about, he was talking about training, and the first habit is being proactive. And I guess I look at it, if I was in his situation, going into a new role, I would hope and I would try to be the kind of person that would take a little bit of that into my own hands, right? I would hope to, even if the company's not offering that training or whatever, to try to learn that on my own. Go ahead and do whatever I can, whether that's read some books on management. Everything's on YouTube nowadays. I mean, just try to be being proactive in those kind of things and how to work with people, because obviously that's something that that's the new part to him, right? He understands products, he understands his job, so be proactive in that new part of his role.
So how do you get somebody? I think you used the term earlier, Brad, that he was oblivious to
Right.
what impact he was having. So how do you take somebody who's oblivious and help them see what's really going on, so they can do what you just said and be proactive and do some things to change and to improve themselves?
Right. So I mean, obviously, in this specific situation, I think. Sorry, I forgot. I mean, that's going to be the first step, right? Is trying to see, talk to them, and know.
I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Is that better? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you a little better. Yeah.
I was just saying, I think she's doing the right thing. Meeting with him, talking to him.
No, I'm losing you. Sorry.
No problem. Hold on.
Yeah, I'm looking too.
Hang on 1 second. I will be right back. I'm going to grab. I have a headset that makes this sound a lot better. So I'll be right back.
Okay.
Carry on.
Well, I throw out the same question to Zach and Adrian. I mean, and think in terms of what we've been reading, what we've been exposed to. You can think big picture, and then you can think specific stuff. What caused Similar to go from what he was to what he became? Think of it in the terms of what you learned in the 7 Habits book. Or at least part of it, a catalyst.
Okay. Well, in my mind, I think he kind of experienced, I guess, a paradigm shift, and where he, as an assistant brand manager, as he worked with someone that had a lot of experience and he cultivated a good working relationship, that when he got promoted into that position, I would assume he's this new paradigm of, okay, now all of this new responsibility is on me. All of this new expectations are on me, because he had made some great progress with the company with social media, as well as working and creating these business to business relations, and especially with the Winter X Games. And so I think this having that new paradigm and that new outlook on his job has created additional stress. Whereas before he was able to build strong relationships with his previous employers, and we know he can build strong relationships with people that he's trying to connect for with his branding and marketing that he does for the business. So I think this new idea has caused a lot of additional stress, and it's left him probably feeling a little insecure. That's, I think, contributed to his recent behavior, at least as a new manager.
It's like we got Brad back.
Yeah.
Thanks, Zach.
I got
No
a.
problem.
There we go. Is this any better with the sound? Can you hear me better?
Yes.
Okay. So I was just saying, with somebody oblivious like that, I think she is already taking the best first step, which is meeting with him and talk about his effect, that his actions had on these other people, and let him know that, that there's been multiple, it wasn't just one person that was having, an effect from his actions, but let him know that, I like the idea in one of our readings, they were talking about in that training, that PowerPoint training about, not being like, oh, this is what you did, but talking about how it affected her. So I was saying that, she should talk about how how it affected her in that meeting when, he corrected the person who made a mistake. And like I said, without knowing how you react, that's where I think you can really talk to him and see more about the future of what he would do with his reaction. Engage that. Is he going to take that into account and realize that, how he's acting is wrong, or is he going to say, no, I they screwed up. That's his heels.
Yeah, going back to can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Going back to the story about Ricardo Semler, what made him change? I think, yeah, it was his health problems, and also, seeing how his employees were upset with the managing style, how everything was so strict and all the hours, and he saw this wasn't working. So, he decided to be more proactive, and he, completely changed his management style. He almost did the opposite of what he was doing before. He stopped being so strict. He let the employees make decisions for themselves, and um, he didn't have much experience doing this, but he just learned through trial and error. He kept trying things, stuff that promoted more, freedom for everybody, and it ended up working for him. And he saw, good results with his business, better results than before.
Thanks, Adrian.
Yeah, I really like that example of how you use that shift. And as you're talking about it, I was thinking, I was really impressed with Ricardo's ability to recognize the desperate need for change, even when his company's performing pretty well, because it mentions that in that last case study. And what do we think, or what do you guys think Mary could do to help Simon have a similar kind of transition as a manager? We know that she's going to have a feedback with him, but what do you think she can do, or is there something she can do to help him have a similar transition?
I think it goes back to, I don't know. I have 4 boys, and our oldest one's almost 14, and So we're in those teenage years, and it kind of goes back to the whole, you can teach people as much as you can, but at the end of the day, they have to make their own choices. So you have to, I think she does have to offer him, the feedback, the training, the things that she can offer. But at the end of the day, it's going to be his choice on whether he wants to, start acting more appropriately.
Yeah.
So how can you, given what we just read about in the 7 Habits book, for instance, how can you help him go down that path of deciding what's important and what he wants to choose to be or become? What have we just learned about that's a great vehicle to make something like that happen?
I really enjoyed the feedback workshop that PowerPoint. In fact, I've used it several times already this week. So my background and my work experience is management, and I really wasn't very good at it when I got promoted into it, and I also right now currently I'm a stay-at-home dad. My son's 10, and he's getting kind of into those teenage years. So there's a lot of teaching and feedback opportunities I have every day with him, as well as my young girls. But the feedback, the way that they train you to give feedback, I thought was great because it breaks things down so it so much doesn't like attack a person's like who they are, because you're talking about just specific behaviors. I liked that you had to mention fears to encourage honesty. I also like the way that when they gave feedback, they talked about impact, and they gave opportunities for coaching and for listening. And I think that all of those steps that we learned about are very important, and not just communicating in a management system, but it's something that we can apply to help people, one, stop and realize by saying, hey, listen, this is what we're trying to accomplish, whether as a family or as a company. And I'm talking to you about something that's important, and I'm afraid you're going to have such and such a reaction or feel such and such way. And that, again, opens up that honesty, and then you can get into the specifics of the feedback. And I think that Mary has a great opportunity as acts of how he reacted and how changing what he's putting the most value on. They talk a lot about values in that 7 Habits book, whether they're values in their self or values in money or in their work or in their job, that changing that into more of being a values-based, paradigm, or having that as, I don't have my book in front of me. I forget the way he phrases it, but having his center be based on values and on being a good manager and on being an honest and open communicator individual, that will help him as a manager and help him be successful in work. And I think she has a great opportunity to coach him in such a manner.
Can I just tweak what you said a little bit?
Please.
And I think this is an important distinction to make, and Covey makes it, and that is values can change, but principles don't. So what to put at our center is and I think that's what you were trying to say, is to put these principles, these changeless things at our center, and then build off of those. Am I putting words in your mouth, or is that what you were?
No, I got the value and principles mixed up because I know it's right. Value. Yeah. So you're right. Principles. I was missing that word, but thank you.
So just to peel this onion a little bit more, the feedback thing, I think I agree with you. It can be a really great, wonderful tool to help, point out and get folks to see that things are maybe different than the way they were perceiving them. But it's still, the question still remains, okay, I see that I'm doing this stuff. Okay, you convinced me. You gave me the feedback. You've shown me these examples, and I see what you're talking about. But I'm still the same guy that I was at the beginning of the conversation. Where do I go from here? What do I do? What are some things that I could do to help me get to the point where I'm actually doing things differently because it's part of who I am?
I think, I think she needs to look and think about, at least with what we know about him, what's important to him. Obviously, right now, this X Games contract is huge. It's something that's in the forefront of his mind. It's something he's extremely proud of. So I think it'd be ideal to talk to him about, how, he needs his team to work together. He needs his team to trust him, and he needs his team to be able to come to him proactively with problems and trust him, so he can trust them. And so, I would talk to him about that. Hopefully, that motivates him to be sure to think about his actions up front, because that's really what motivates him, is this project right now. Am I making sense there?
Yeah, I agree. Adrian, what are your thoughts?
I think he could. I think she needs to be, specific with him as to, what exactly he did wrong, and she needs to let him know, yelling at other employees, it's unacceptable, and doing it in front of everybody else, it makes it even worse. She needs to set some guidelines, tell him, can't do that. You need, to calm down, and, you need to, she could take, the individual who's responsible for that, she could, or he could talk to that person, in private, and, have a, calm, reasonable discussion with him. And as to his behavior, she could also, provide some sort of coaching for him, so that try to break his habit of, getting mad at and yelling at everybody whenever something goes wrong at work, because it's probably automatic for him to act like that. So he needs some sort of coaching and it might take, multiple sessions to help him break that habit. There was something in the reading about that like your brain is like hardwired to act a certain way, but you can break that habit through, practice and, coaching.
I think that's awesome. I like that you mentioned several things about habits, and what that reminded me of, Adrian. I feel like you're a little shy, but I love everything you say. Every time you talk, I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. Like, it reminds me of something new or something I hadn't thought of before. But when you were talking, it reminded me of is the section in 7 Habits when it talks about mission statements. And I think maybe a good experience, like coaching tool for Mary to implement would be to have him write a mission statement, like a personal one for him just in his life, encourage him to do that, as well as one for his job, his current job. And I think that would give him the opportunity to really think about who he wants to be as a manager and as an individual. And then there's something that they can use together when he's going through that coaching, that I know that both, you, Adrian, and Brad talked about this, that importance of coaching, and just having that mission statement that he himself wrote, that they can hold him accountable to, Like, well, hey, when you do this, this isn't like if you want to be a good manager and have good communication with your staff, but you're yelling at them, that's not in line with this mission statement that you wrote. So what can we do better? That's what I think. I mean, that's something that came to me while you were talking, Adrian.
Well,
Yeah.
to use the baseball analogy that's been used tonight several times, you guys are hitting a home run. That's a great approach to take. So I thank you for bringing that out. In which I want to just connect the dot a little bit further. That this whole idea of becoming, which is kind of the basis of the accountability proposal, accountability project. What is that really?
I'm not. What do you mean? Like, what is?
Well, in the context of what Zach just said, what is that accountability proposal?
Oh, our accountability project. How does that apply
Yeah.
to becoming?
Well, no. What is it? It's really a mini what?
Mission statement.
Yeah, it's a mission statement.
Yep.
It's you. And I realize people did this to varying degrees of depth, but it's looking at yourself, deciding where's my center, what's important to me. Okay, there's some things I want to be that I'm not, or I want to be better than I am. Putting some goals out there to help me get there. So that's all. It's a great process. So you're involved in that process, being involved in the accountability process. It's a proposal. So it's kind of a neat way to tie into what you're learning. So that's just kind of a editorial comment.
Very good.
Yeah. Once Adrian talked, I made that connection. So again, Adrian, thanks for saying what you said. It can help connect some of the dots in my own head. But and as you were continuing to explain that and what that does is one of the things I noticed in the case study, and I don't know if Adrian or Brad, if you noticed this, but I didn't like the way that any of the leaders or the managers kind of reacted in general in that case study. I didn't like the way that the director of the productions came down. I didn't like the way that at least the way I read it, that he was really upset and angry with Mary, almost like directly as he came to her. He kind of says he was almost like storming at her, and she was trying to cool him off before he even spoke to her, and he was interrupting her. She had already noticed some bad signs with York and had failed to address them, and then Simon York's obvious things. And so I kind of made the next connection of, I think that there's even a larger issue there with their management and with their leadership in that company, that none of them are communicating in a constructive way. Did you guys pick up on that at all, or did you guys have any thoughts on that?
That's interesting. I hadn't thought about it that way but now that you mention it, that really does show. I don't know if any of you have had in one of any other your classes done any of the a case study on Zappos. Have you guys ever looked into them at all?
I don't think I've done Zappos.
Okay.
I haven't either.
So just very quick, what I found very interesting about them is they're big on culture, right? And their company culture. And so long story short, they actually, after I can't remember, however many week training for all of their employees, they're all offered a buyout. And it's a pretty hefty, it's like $10,000 or something to quit the company. And the reason why they do that is, they'd rather, give them 10 grand and walk away. If they don't buy into the business, they don't really buy into what that company's about. They find it much bigger ways to have people there that don't fit their culture. And that really stuck with me. and just I know this case study is really talking about the culture there in this business, and how important that is. And so that's a really good observation, Zach, that I didn't really put together, but that's true. It's like, kind of there's a lot of dysfunction going on that's a little bit more than just this one guy.
So what could you do, given based on what we've just learned, to help change the culture? What would be a high leverage activity to do with the organization?
That's a good question.
Connected to what we just talked about with regards to Simon.
Well, I think Zach's thought on mission statements and those kind of things, I think need to start from the top down. I think they need to understand. All of them need to understand where they're at and what's the business's mission statement. I think from the top down, we can't just expect one person to. You need to change. You need to do your mission statement, and we're just going to sit here doing the status quo. That doesn't change the culture. That just tries to change a person.
Right.
Yeah, I really like that. I like that. The top down, I think, was a really great way to phrase that. Agent, or was there something? I mean, I'm kind of a talker. Did you have any thoughts?
Yeah. First of all, I like the idea you brought up about the mission statement, and that was good. Also, as to the last question, what could be done to try to improve the culture of the company, like how you were saying, how even the other manager that was like storming towards Mary, that didn't look good either. Um, they could have some more management training for for everyone in the company. They could have them all sit through that, and so that not just one employee's corrected. They could help improve the management of all the employees of the company, all the managers, and could some sort of a seminar or something they could have, or something like that.
Yeah, like a training where everybody kind of gets together and helps write that mission statement.
Yeah, something like that, like an assembly or something.
What do you guys think? Like, what would be the benefit of that? Like, if everybody got together and wrote that mission statement.
So little bit of a real world example. So I ran my own IT business for about 14 years, and I just sold it last year. And I'm now working with the company that I sold my business to. And I'm really good friends with the majority owner of the business. We really see eye to eye on a lot of things. We have very similar goals and ideas. And he's he loves the 7 Habits. He loves reading books. He loves kind of he'll get into these kind of discussions, mission statements, all these things. And where we struggled in this business is, it's great to say, oh, we're going to have training, or we're going to write a mission statement, but how do you really get people to buy in to it and not just be there, rah, yep, that's great, and then the second they walk out of the room, think, oh, what, these bozos are wanting me to do this stuff. That's not, I don't care about this stuff. This is just my 9-to-5 job that I'm punching in and out of. I guess, how do you be genuine to people, right? How do they really, because I know that he believes it 100%, because I know him, and but how do you, am I making sense there? Like, how do you, in the real world, how do we get people to buy into that?
I guess my thought, because I've never done a training like that before, but this would just be hearsay, but I think what the mission statement to me would come down to would be accountability. I think trying to help people understand that what they put into the mission statement is what they're going to be held accountable to, I think would help people be like, okay, like, so if you're saying if you want, part of your mission statement to be, we will be here on time every day. We will be an organized and punctual company, that when they show up late for work, then they understand that, well, hey, I voted for that to be in the mission statement. So, like, that's something that can go right up or on my record, or I can be talked about. It's the way they talk to customers. Like, we will always, they will always speak to customers from, like, kindly or appropriately or professionally, whatever the terminology you want to use. That I think trying to help the people in your company understand that this mission statement is an opportunity for them to help influence what's going to be important to them and to the company and to the customers as a whole. But I don't have a lot of experience.
Yeah, if I could interject, Covey says I think one of his key principles that he mentions in the book is where there's no involvement, there's no commitment. And so it's very, very important that if you're going to do something like this, that it isn't just 2 or 3 people doing it. It's whoever it affects is involved in some way. And in a large organization, you have to do it in chunks. You can't have 5,000 people in a room trying to figure out the mission statement. You divide it up into chunks, but the principle still applies. And that's what you're basically saying, I think, Zach, is if they're involved in the process, they're going to identify with it. And to Brad's point, at the end of the day, if they look at that mission statement and say, no, I can't do this, or I don't want to do this, then they should get out of Dodge. I mean, as a person of integrity, they should get out of Dodge. Or if they're working for Zappos, they should take the $10,000 and run.
Right.
So.
No, and I agree with that. I mean, that's, right now, like I said, I went from, ownership and running the ship to now, although I'm getting into ownership with this company, I'm not. And so, yeah, it's, it's hard kind of being behind the scenes, wanting to do things differently. Cause I do see in this business that I think it comes off to some of these employees as, disingenuous, where, he comes in every once in a while and kind of has that rah, let's go. And then, it's ignored for 6 months, and then he picks up another book, and then it's like, oh, hey, let's do this. So I do see that also from the top, right? They need to buy into it and really buy into it. You can't just, hey, let's have a meeting on the mission statement, let's put it together, and then never talk about it again, or never continue to grow, right? I mean, growth is not a one meeting thing or a one-time thing.
I think that's a great point. I worked Sorry. I said I worked for a guy that did the same thing. I managed the company for him, and he would read some business book, and he'd get all excited about some new business idea, and he'd come in all on fire. I'm like, dude, this is going to change everything. And he'd implement all this stuff, and then he'd leave, and I'm like, well, I don't know what to do with all this anymore. And he's like, it's okay, I got it now. I'm like, I'll take care of it from here. And then he wouldn't hear about it for 3 months until he read the next book. And so I understand, like, I can empathize with you and with people you work with, that just that roller coaster of like, okay, here's another new idea, and here's another new idea. I think Covey's idea of what leadership is, of just kind of thinking with that right brain, just that creative brain, and being able to see the big picture in the long term, and having that North Star, like, okay, this is where we ultimately want to go, I think helps a lot in those regards too. Just okay, this is what it is, and we're going to always be trying to always refer back to that final destination or that final goal that's in the horizon. I'm trying to everything you build, you add on, just be in support of that final goal. But I don't know if we're getting off topic now. So
No, you're not getting off topic. I don't think. I think this is important to the discussion, although I think we probably need to wrap it up a bit over an hour. So, but this is, whether you're in a small organization or a big one or whatever, having people in alignment can make a real difference to the performance of the organization. The more aligned people are as to what they believe their principles are and their values, the more energy they can focus on really progressing with the company and so forth. So that's real important to do. And the rah-rah stuff that comes, like you guys both mentioned, that the flavor of the month or decade or year or whatever, that sort of thing has its place, and I think if it's done right, it can make a real difference. And the thing that I brought to mind is just reading this morning in the Book of Mormon, where Moroni raises the title of liberty. That was a rah-rah deal. He makes this flag, he puts it on a pole and waves it and, declares these things. But it resonated with the folks because it was based on true principles and they had similar values. And they were able to rally around that cause of liberty. So there is room for that stuff if it's done right. I'm going to have to get off the calls, but I just want to tell you how much I appreciate being with you. And I think you guys had some great points that you brought up, and we'll look forward to doing more stuff together. Thanks.
Very good. Well, thank you.
Thanks.
thank you.
Come to that.
Don't forget to post the video and all that stuff.
Yeah, I'll post it in the discussion board and then I'll email it to you too, like it says.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys. See
All
you.
right, thank you.
All right, see you. Bye.
Alrighty.
Does anybody have any comments or questions about anything that we've discussed?
Culture. I'm just looking at this, whatever the agenda is thing. I think we hit most of the important stuff. I mean,
I agree. So just to clarify then, just for the guys that don't know, Heidi and Ryan that aren't here, I'll just do a quick summary. So after we kind of summarize the case facts, at least my big takeaways were that what's important from this case study is the lack of principles that Simon York had, and that Mary has the opportunity to help him understand and see the importance of basing his values off sound principles. And the best way that she can help him see that and help hold him accountable is by having him work on a personal mission statement, and then from there doing coaching and training with him based on that. We also see that there is a need for these a unity of principles to be talked about and developed even within Darby Foods, that they need to write a mission statement as a whole and use this mission statement to help address, train, and coach all of their other management teams and leaders so that they can all be on the same page to work to communicate effectively. And if we have that kind of end goal in mind, as new fads or new ideas come up, we can always kind of revert back to that mission goal and trust that the leaders of Derby will be able to, know which direction they're trying to take the company in, and that they'll be able to use the mission statement and the trainings that they've used and the coaching they've received to make consistently good choices to help everyone progress and move forward. Do you guys have any comments or questions or add-ons?
No, that sounds good to me.
Thumbs up.
All right. Well, I'll go ahead and let you guys get back to your night. And it's nice meeting you guys. And we'll catch up next week. Brad, you got it for next week. And do you have any questions? You're IT guy, so I'm sure you know exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
So